I went into manufacturing, and long story short, I wound up as a 23-year-old on the second shift as a boxing line supervisor. So if you can think about the manufacturing process, right, at the very end of the line, they're putting finished goods into the box and all the other parts that go into the box, and we tape it up and it goes on to palletizing. And that's really the final, right? It gets palletized and goes out. And so I had 7 boxing lines, and there were 2 other kind of supervisors alongside me, and we'd staff it anywhere from 40 to a couple hundred people, with most of them being temps. And we would run that facility would run 24 hours a day, generally just 5 days a week. What would always happen, and if you think of the kitting, receiving, all the way down to sub-assembly to final assembly to burning the image on the desktops, it was a desktop workstation facility, to test QA, and then it would cruise across all the conveyor lines over to boxing. And any one of those could break down, but generally what would be the case is either the parts didn't show up in kitting, so we just never put it on the line, so you'd know not to start that customer's order. So we didn't have the parts, we can't start it, so we'll go to the next order. But almost inevitably, several times a quarter, it would get to boxing. And because Dell was so efficient, and they had VOI and VMI, and we had truck dogs out in the yard just pulling trucks to the dock constantly, all night, all day. And those were generally like boxes and parts that would go into like keyboards, mice, CDs, documentation, cables, everything that goes into the box with the computer, and foam end caps to go on the computer, put it in and write and package it, all the way down to like tape, right, that had to go on a machine to tape it. The number one thing that got us the most in my line was a foam end cap. And we would run a line because the foam end cap that goes on the end of the computer is different for every computer. The system would assume the truck was in the yard with the end caps, and we'd be midway through a shift. And this would happen more than once in my 2 years in this facility, where inventory said there's no more end caps. We're on the last truck, we're on the last pallet, and we're going to have to shut down. So then I'm running all over, talking to my supervisors, talking to the shift manager, saying we're about to run out, and we've got 500 more units coming our direction that we're going to have to pull off the line or stop and shut down. And pulling them off the line is a horrible option, because you've got to now think about stacking and racking and moving 500 machines without messing any of them up and damaging them. So what inevitably would happen is it'd get to the end of the line, we'd have no more. We would maybe jump to the next line and try and start running other items. And then that was an unplanned, unforeseen movement. So there'd be something that was supposed to go in that box that didn't have enough of. Ultimately, that foam end cap, which arguably is probably pennies, would shut down the entire shift, and they would have to expedite something in, whether it could come in the next day or the next week. What we would have to do is we would run, my worst was 27 days straight, 12 hours a day, to finish the end of the quarter to get enough units out to make up for the miss. One of our first customers, we were able to effectively eliminate their need. Prior to SourceDay, they were constantly having to charter private jets to get tiny parts to their assembly line, because they were a tier 2 auto manufacturer, parts manufacturer, and the downtime for them to the auto manufacturer was tens of thousands of dollars in fees to them. So rather than missing it, they would charter private jets constantly to the supplier, get the part they needed to finish their sub-assembly to get it to their customer on time. After using SourceDay, they never had to charter a private jet again. They were able to have visibility to like those misses, those swings, through tighter collaboration.